Good morning, friends. Today we would be dealing with the eighth booklet on biodiversity, and we are going to start with international efforts to protect biodiversity. Okay, while covering fundamentals of biodiversity, we were dealing with various terms. For example, on many occasions, we were saying that the this particular species is in CITES this appendix. So, CITE is an international effort to protect biodiversity. In the same way, the Ramsar Convention is an international effort to protect wetlands, which in turn protects biodiversity. In the same way, we have Bonn Convention, which is an international effort to protect migratory species. So those are certain things that we want to cover in this class. Okay, so let us start with this. The first topic that we want to start with in international effort is CITES only. Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES, on wild flora and fauna. ध्यान से देखिए, Convention on International Trade. Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So, this particular effort would be focused on, or is focused on, ensuring that because of international trade of various species or their body parts, they are not becoming more threatened. International trade should happen in such a way that they are not endangering wild plants and animals. This convention, CITES, is also called Washington Convention. Now, overall, what is it? It's an international convention where countries have come together, have agreed that they would take certain steps to ensure that because of international trade, the species of plants and animals are not becoming more endangered. Now, this was adopted in 1963 at the meeting of IUCN. We have spoken about IUCN, we have already studied about IUCN. At their meeting, it was decided, but it came into force only in 1975 when 10 members had acceded to it. And today, as of May 2021, as of June 2021, there are 180 parties. Now, this is a kind of binding agreement because all the countries which are signatories to it, which accede to it, have to follow or have to take steps as has been given in CITES. Now, though it is binding, but what is really happening is most of the countries are not able to fulfill the obligations. So though it is binding, जैसे हमारे country में बहुत सारे laws हैं which we have to follow, but they are not being followed effectively. So what, first of all, what is the aim? Aim वही होगा international trade की वजह से, because of international trade, do not affect, do not increase the threat or do not impact the survival of living organisms. It is presently covering around 35,000 species. Of these, more than 30,000 species are those of animals, and more than 5,000 species are those of plants. Here by animals, please note, animals are not only mammals. Animal kingdom में हमने देखा था birds भी थे, reptiles भी थे. All those things are included here. So 30,000 animals are being covered, 5,000 of plants are being covered. Here, these animals and plants which have been protected are divided into 3 appendix on the basis of level of protection being provided to them. First is Appendix 1, which is the most protected one. So we saw tiger is in Appendix 1. In Wildlife Protection Act, it is in Schedule 1, but in CITES, it used to be in Appendix 1. And I told you that we will be covering the meaning of it being in Appendix 1 somewhat later. So according to this convention, The species which are in Appendix 1 are the species which are threatened with extinction. And therefore, they need highest amount of protection. And therefore, their trade is not allowed. It is allowed only in extreme exceptional circumstances. In general, their trade is not allowed. So if a species is in CITES Appendix 1, its trade is not allowed normally. Only in exceptional circumstances, trade would be allowed. I hope now you're understanding. CITES का जब हम बोल रहे थे, when we were talking about protection status, we were saying CITES में it is in Appendix 1. What is meant by something being in Appendix 1? It is threatened with extinction, and it will not be traded, or its body parts will not be traded unless in exceptional circumstances. Then comes Appendix 2. These are not necessarily threatened, but here also trade must be controlled. Otherwise, their survival may become threatened in future. That is Appendix 2. So lesser amount of protection. Then there is Appendix 3. In Appendix 3, we have those species which are not in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, but are still protected in any one of the member countries. Let's say there's a species in India, XYZ species in India, which has not been included by CITES in Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, but under Wildlife Protection Act, it has been given some protection. So those species are in CITES ka Appendix 3, and India can ask other countries who are party to this convention to control the trade of that particular species. So 3 appendix of CITES. I hope this is understood. No problem in these. Let me know by chat or by raising your hand. I'll let you speak also if you have any issues, any problem here. The 3 appendixes of CITES. 2-3 चीजें ध्यान रखनी है. CITES इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड वाली चीज से डील कर रहा है. Convention was signed in 1963 at a meeting of IUCN. Then it came into force in 1975, and then there are 3 of these appendixes. Now, what has been the significance of CITES? Enforcement has been difficult. We would see that still international trade in ivory products go on, but overall we have seen that awareness has increased, and at least countries have started taking steps. If that species not found, for example, 4 years back it was China which for the first time banned ivory products. It was because of demand from China. A lot of elephants were killed and their ivories were extracted. So those kind of positive impact have been there. The COP of CITES, Conference of Parties. I have not explained you the meaning of Conference of Parties yet. Generally, when there's a convention, तो convention में जो भी parties हैं, parties which have acceded to it, they meet together at a conference which is called COP, Conference of Parties. For example, there is a convention called United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. We will study this convention when we come to climate change. Right now, we are dealing with biodiversity. So its COP will be COP of UNFCCC. In the same way, we have CITES as a convention. So when the member countries of CITES meet, this is called COP of CITES. So COP of CITES, last COP of CITES was held in 2019. The next COP of CITES would be held 3 years later. So it meets every 3 years. So next would be held in Costa Rica in 2022. The last one in 2019 was held in Geneva. The next would be held in Costa Rica in 2022. Now, other news related to CITES I have already covered you. For example, while talking about otters, I had said that those otters were moved from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1 in CITES. While talking about star tortoise also, we had said that it was also promoted from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. That is, it was given higher protection recently. Then pangolin. While talking about pangolins also, we had said that India had been requesting for pangolins to be moved from CITES Appendix 1 to Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. And then all the 4 pangolins which are found in India, in India, Africa together have all been moved to Appendix 1, means being given higher protection. So we have kept on studying about the role of this particular thing in protecting biodiversity or in what has happened over the last 1 year or so. Here we have dealt with the basics of CITES also. कोई doubt नहीं होना चाहिए यहाँ पे. Now, there's another thing related to trade, international trade of species that we keep hearing regularly, that is traffic. Another organization, that is traffic. So what is traffic? Traffic is a international trade monitoring organization. This is an organization which monitors international trade in wildlife species or their body parts. So throughout the year, you'll keep hearing this news, like the CITES has published this report, which is talking about how much of international trade in tiger body parts had taken place. So traffic is that body. Traffic, a wildlife trade monitoring network. Now, traffic and CITES are actually very significant. In fact, in 1999, they have signed an MOU to undertake joint activities in capacity building. Moreover, when you look at priorities of traffic, it says promote international cooperation to address wildlife trade issues with particular emphasis on CITES. So traffic as an organization focuses a lot on this convention and promotes international cooperation so that this convention on international trade in endangered species, gets implemented effectively. So you should briefly know about traffic as well. Now, let's talk about Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species, which is also known as Bonn Convention. Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, also known as Bonn Convention. See, CITES को हम Washington Declaration या Washington Convention भी बोल रहे थे. In the same way, CMS is also known as Bonn Convention. Now look at the name, Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species. Species which migrate from one place to another. So it can be birds, it can be animals, it can be fish, any of the species. For example, dugongs are known for migration, long migration. Birds, a lot of birds, sociable lapwing, Siberian crane. There's a particular kind of bird that we'll look at today. It migrates from pole to pole. वो summers में ही रहना चाहता है. So when there are summers on North Pole, it would be on the northern hemisphere, North Pole में. When there are summers on the South Pole, it will come on the southern hemisphere. इतना travel कर रहा. So a lot of birds migrate, a lot of animals migrate, and when a particular species is living in a particular forest, and if we protect that forest, it's good enough for that species. But when it comes to migratory animals, migratory birds, for them, it's important that not only the species, the place where they're living or the place where they're breeding is protected. What is also important is when they are migrating, their migratory pathway, the places where they rest, the path through which they fly, the path through which they travel, all of them are protected. बीच में उनका illegal hunting ना हो रहा हो. For example, Amur falcon is a migratory bird to India. It used to fly from the Siberian region and come for rest in Northeast India. Till a few years back, till 2012-13, a lot of hunting of Amur falcon used to take place. After various initiatives, local people in Northeast India have realized the significance of Amur falcon, and now that hunting has stopped. What is going on? Guys, give me 1 second. Now, so we were talking about this migration wala issue. So when we talk about protection of migratory species, we will have to take into consideration all these aspects. And therefore, please differentiate it from CITES. CITES is for trade, for international trade. Because of international trade, the biodiversity should not be impacted. Survival of a particular species should not be threatened because of international trade. This here is because of migration. In the process of migration, this convention, Bonn Convention, is focused on, in the process of migration, the species should not be threatened, species should not be impacted. Okay, so let us look at this particular thing in somewhat more detail. What do we do under CITES? So by the way, please note one more thing. It is the only global convention, only international convention that is specialized in migratory species, that is focused specifically on migratory species. Other conventions are focused on trade or other things. This is the only international convention that is focused on migratory species. Okay, now here also we have two appendix. In appendix 1, we have those migratory species which are threatened with extinction. Now, under this, the member countries, when CMS or when Bonn Convention parties decide to include a particular species in appendix 1, highest amount of protection, member countries are supposed to work towards ensuring or work towards strictly protecting. Strictly protecting what? That living organism, that particular species, plus their habitat, plus their path of travel. प्लीज नोट, यहाँ पे बस उस पर्टिकुलर स्पीसीज को प्रोटेक्शन कर देना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. Even the places where they rest in the path of their travel, those have to be protected. So CMS parties strive towards strictly protecting these animals, conserving or restoring the places where they live, mitigating obstacles to migration, and controlling other factors that might endanger them. Overall focus कि all member countries you work towards achieving this. Okay, then we have appendix 2. These are not threatened right now, but if we protect these species, or these species also need or would benefit if protection is provided through international cooperation. They're not exactly threatened by extinction. Okay, so this is in appendix 2, and for this reason, under this, international cooperation is promoted. That is, the range countries would come together to work towards protection of that particular species. So as of May 2021, there are 132 members. Some of you are using notes of last year for the static part, things which do not change. वहां पे छोटे छोटे changes कर लीजिएगा जो for example, its number of member countries have increased. In last year's notes, it was 130, now it is 132. Now, India, like CMS, started working since 1983. India has been a member of CMS since 1983 only. ऐसे CITES में भी India is a party. So you understand that. Now, the 13th COP, Conference of Party of Bonn Convention, was held in India. It was held in February 2020. In fact, February 2020 was the last month जब कुछ बड़ा international congregation हो पाया था. Then March 2020 से COVID started playing a role, and after that nothing has happened. So nothing big, no big physical international conference had taken place since then. We have COP 13 COP on CMS, which was held in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. The first thing that you should know about Gandhinagar Declaration. देखो 2015 में एक क्वेश्चन आया था, फोर्टालिजा डिक्लेरेशन किससे एसोसिएटेड है? तो इन दैट ईयर फोर्टालिजा में ब्रिक्स सबमिट हुआ था, तो आंसर देयर वाज ब्रिक्स. और आई थिंक द क्वेश्चन वाज अबाउट फोर्टालिजा कहां लोकेटेड है, तो आंसर वाज ब्राजील, बिकॉज फोर्टालिजा डिक्लेरेशन वाज मेड. इन द सेम वे गांधीनगर डिक्लेरेशन करके क्वेश्चन आता है, so they will not perhaps ask you where is Gandhinagar located. They'll ask you Gandhinagar declaration is associated with what. You should be able to say it is associated with CMS, or also known as Bonn Convention. तो Gandhinagar declaration क्या है ये पता होना चाहिए, because COP 13 of CMS was held in Gandhinagar. Conference of Parties 13 of CMS was held in Gandhinagar. Now, and in this declaration, what happened? One key thing that was done was a strong message was given on why protection of migratory species is important. And here, an idea of ecological connectivity was highlighted. What is this idea of ecological connectivity? हम बोल रहे हैं कि जो the connectivity that we're talking about is not only through the like birds को travel करने के लिए वो connectivity provide कर दो, but the whole ecology should be such that one is connected to another, other is connected to another, so that not only these migratory birds but overall everyone benefits. Then this was the in this conference first ever report on status of migratory species was published. And other than showing that there are some species which have benefited, this report showed that most of the migratory species covered by CMS are declining in population. For the first time, a comprehensive report on migratory species was published in this conference of Parties 13 at Gandhinagar, and it showed that population of most of migratory species is declining, is reducing. Here it was also decided that this CMS would be, or there would be preparation of a flagship report on the status of migratory animals from now on, so that we'll have clear idea what are the threats they are facing, which are the species that we need to focus upon more. Till now, we have not had a flagship report specifically focused on migratory species. It was decided here that we'll be coming up with that. Then some animal species from India. Guys, I'm getting a call. Give me 2 minutes. I'll call you. I'm sorry, guys. Am I audible? Am I audible again?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm sorry, my landlord had been calling me since last 5 minutes, and he called me many times, so I had to get disconnected. I had to pick up his call. We were talking about in this conference COP 13, it was also decided that 3 of these Indian species, Great Indian Bustard, Asian Elephant, and Bengal Florican, they are moved to Appendix 1. That is, they would now be given highest amount of protection. They were moved from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1. So देखो, not only about sites now, you'll also have to know some things about CMS के appendix. Till now we spoke about sites, no? The sites mein elephant is in Appendix 1. Now you'll have to remember that elephant or Great Indian Bustard or Bengal Florican, you know that Great Indian Bustard and Bengal Florican are both critically endangered species. They in CMS, in Bonn Convention also are in Schedule 1. In the same way, from other countries, species were also moved to Schedule 1, not very important for us. Then another very important thing happened in this conference, a focus on animal culture and how it can help in conservation of biodiversity was made. Now, what is animal culture? जैसे हमारा culture है ना, we live in a society, we live together, we learn from each other. In the same way, animals also have a culture. But we have never studied that. We have never understood how knowledge is transferred from one animal to other, and what role can it be playing in preservation of biodiversity. So for the first time in this conference, animal culture linked to conservation was discussed. Then in this conference, 7 migratory species champions were also recognized. Who are migratory species champions? Countries which work towards improving or contributing towards this convention, or working towards protection of migratory species. We are talking about this because India was one of the countries which was among the 7 migratory species champions. Then there were some other things that you should know about. This was for the first time that this conference of parties of CMS, of Bonn Convention, was inaugurated by head of government. बाकी countries में होता है, so the head of the government there do not come for this kind of inauguration, but here हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर के पास थोड़ा टाइम भी ज्यादा है और उन्हें इनॉग्रेशन वगैरह में मजा भी ज्यादा आता है. So he went and inaugurated this. This was the first time this happened. Or you can take it in a different manner. Our prime minister is very much focused. He is very much associated with protection of migratory species. He understood the significance of this convention and went for this inauguration, but for the first time, आंसर सीए लिखना है. इंट्रोडक्शन लिखोगे सीएमएस के बारे में तो इंट्रोड्यूस उसको ऐसे भी कर सकते हो, तारीफ करते हुए प्राइम मिनिस्टर की. ये नहीं बोलोगे कि उनके पास बहुत वेला टाइम है, आ जाते हैं कहीं भी इनॉग्रेशन करने, मर जाओगे, सिलेक्शन नहीं होगा फिर. कम बैक टू दिस. तो this was the first CMS COP where Prime Minister inaugurated it. Prime Minister of the host country inaugurated it. This was now for next 3 years. COP 13 was held in India. Now for next 3 years, the chairmanship of COP 13 is with us, is with India. So एक क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, the current chairman, the current presidency of COP, or sorry, of CMS is with India. You should know this. For next 3 years, from 2020, 21, 22, in तीनों सालों में the chairman, the presidency would be with us. And for the first time in this conference, the impact of declining insects on the bird migratory species was discussed. So far, जब हम migratory species की बात करते थे, even in this conference, when we used to speak about migratory species, we had never talked about how the declining insect population may impact the migratory species, the amount of food that they're able to get and all those things, how those may change. For the first time, we discussed it here. Okay, so this was CMS convention. Now, there are a few more things about CMS that we should know about. One is we have a non-legally binding MOU with CMS under which we are working towards protection of these migratory species: Siberian crane, marine turtles, dugongs, raptors. These are some migratory species. For their protection, we have a non-binding MOU with Convention on Migratory Species. Then, like India, India has a lot of migratory species which come to India. We have already discussed that. A lot of birds we have talked about, a lot of turtles we spoke about. For example, हमने बोला था कि यहाँ पे नेस्टिंग के लिए बहुत सारी टर्टल स्पीसीज आती हैं, ड्यूगोंग्स आते हैं, humpback whales. We have spoken about these things in previous classes. So India is home to a number of migratory species, and therefore for India and for migratory for CMS India and for India CMS is important. So Convention on Migratory Species or Bonn Convention, there should be complete clarity on this. India currently is the president, holding the presidency of this body. This is one of the last major convention that could physically take place. तो इस पे क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, even if it was not asked last year, this year it may be asked. You should be prepared with this. Okay, now come to the next topic, Bird Life International. I'm dealing with Bird Life. Generally, I used to deal with Bird Life International at the end, but I'm dealing with Bird Life International in the beginning here because अभी जब हम Ramsar sites पे जाएंगे, there on a number of occasions we'll see that this particular lake is also a important bird and biodiversity area. So we want to understand what is important bird and biodiversity area. And the concept of important bird and biodiversity area is given by BirdLife International. So first let's understand what is this BirdLife International. This BirdLife International is an organization which is a collaboration of several NGOs. It's a global partnership of conservation organizations or NGOs from across the world. Focus क्या है? Bird life, नाम ही bird life है. Conservation of birds, their habitats and their biodiversity. So what is BirdLife International? It's a partnership of global conservation organization or NGOs, global NGOs which are working towards conservation of organizations, conservation of birds. So it's a collaboration of those organizations and they are working towards conservation of birds. For their conservation, their habitats also have to be conserved and their biodiversity also have to be conserved. Its priorities include preventing extinction of bird species, identifying and safeguarding important sites of birds, important bird and biodiversity area which they would identify. So they identify what are the important sites of bird, maintain and restore key bird habitat, and empower conservationists worldwide. Help NGOs, help individuals who are working towards conservation worldwide. Now, it is considered world's largest partnership. Currently, it has 121 NGO partners from across the world. From India, the major partner that it has is Bombay Natural History Society, BNHS. This is important. This is very important. You should know that BirdLife International का NGO partner in India कौन है? Who is the NGO partner of BirdLife International in India? You should be able to answer that. So far, it has identified 7,500 important bird areas. Please note that हमने बोला कि इसके roles क्या है, इसके functions क्या है. One of its function is identifying and safeguarding important sites of bird. Identifying and safeguarding important sites of birds. So by identifying important bird and biodiversity area, it has done identification, and once an area is declared important bird and biodiversity area, the NGOs there, the country there starts focusing on its protection more. Okay, so first of all, what is BirdLife International is understood. Now, what is important bird and biodiversity area? Now, again, your common sense will tell you something. Important bird and biodiversity areas should be those areas which are important for protection of birds. कोई एक wetland जहां पे thousands and thousands of birds come, that area perhaps is an important bird and biodiversity area. One particular area, forget wetland, one particular forest area, a particular species only found there. Will it be an important bird and biodiversity area? Yes, it will be an important bird and biodiversity area. An area where for a particular species, most of its population or a large percentage of its population is only found in this area. That will be an important bird and biodiversity area. An area where a number of threatened bird species come together, that will be an important bird and biodiversity area. So what is bird and biodiversity area? Bird and biodiversity area, important bird and biodiversity area is an area identified using internationally agreed set of criteria as being globally important for conservation of bird population. Fine. So what is IBA? Areas which are important for conservation of bird population. Now, there are criteria on how IBAs are decided. We'll come to that. We'll come to those criteria. But the BirdLife Partnership has been working towards identifying these areas since 1970s, and so far 13,000 important bird and biodiversity areas have been identified across the world. Many of them are in India also. All these important bird and biodiversity areas are also key biodiversity areas. Now, what is key biodiversity? Key biodiversity area is a concept by IUCN. What would be key biodiversity area? Key biodiversity areas are those areas which are important for conservation of biodiversity. तो एक एरिया है जो इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर कंजर्वेशन ऑफ बर्ड्स है, that is also key biodiversity area by common sense. तो इसीलिए now you will see the name of important bird areas have been changed to important bird and biodiversity area. If it's protecting bird, it's also protecting biodiversity. Thus, all important bird and biodiversity areas are also key biodiversity areas. So what is important bird and biodiversity area is understood. What are key biodiversity areas are also understood. Now, significance. So what is significance? Significance तो वही है कि एक बार once a place is declared bird and biodiversity area, the chances of its protection increases because it's highlighted that place is important for protection of birds. Some of the regions, some countries in the world also give statutory protection. Once a area is declared as important bird area, usko wo bird sanctuary declare kar denge and then they'll provide some statutory protection. Now come to criteria. How can an area be declared as important bird and biodiversity area or important bird area? By default, important bird area is also an important biodiversity area, key biodiversity area. So first thing is, if first criteria is if that place, if that area is having some critically endangered or vulnerable species, then it can be declared as important bird and biodiversity area. So Sri Lanka Malleshwar Wildlife Sanctuary. Who'll answer me this? कौन आंसर करेगा? सब कुछ मैं ही बोलता रहता हूँ, अब आपको बोलना पड़ेगा. कौन आंसर? अनमोल श्रीवास्तव जी. अनमोल श्रीवास्तव जी, श्रीलंका मल्लेश्वर वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी में कौन सा बर्ड है? उसका फ्लैगशिप स्पीसी कौन सा है? अनमोल म्यूट करके बैठा हुआ है, बोलेगा क्या कर लोगे सर, मैं तो म्यूट पे हूँ. ऑनलाइन क्लास के फायदे. अनमोल अनम्यूट ही नहीं करेगा अपने आप को. कौन आंसर करेगा? Samreen is answering Jedon Corsair. Yes, it is the bird. So now in Sri Lanka Malleshwar Wildlife Sanctuary, this bird Jedon Corsair is there. So it's a critically endangered bird. So can that place be declared important bird and biodiversity area? Yes. If it has endangered birds, it can be declared important bird and biodiversity area. But if it's a vulnerable bird, it can be declared important bird and biodiversity area, but only if birds are present in sufficient amount beyond a threshold. 10-15 vulnerable birds उस area में है, then it would not classify as important bird and biodiversity area. Okay, got it. So पहला criteria, it should be having critically endangered or vulnerable species. For critically endangered and endangered, if you have species, it's sufficient condition. For vulnerable, you should have more than a threshold number of species. Then another criteria is that it's a restricted range species. You have restricted range species. So basically, if a species there which is found only in selected set of sites, उनमें से एक site ये है, then it can be declared as important bird area. Similarly, if it's a biome restricted species and it's found in that particular area, or if it's a place where a number of birds congregate together, जैसे हमने थाने क्रीक की बात करी थी, a lot of flamingos congregate together, those places could be declared as important biodiversity area. Fine. So what are important bird and biodiversity area and ways, criteria by which important bird and biodiversity areas could be declared? Now come to how do BirdLife International work to protect these habitats? जिनको important bird and biodiversity area declare कर दिया जाता है, how do Conservation International come to work towards protecting it? So first, please note each of the BirdLife partners. Who are BirdLife partners? For example, BNHS, Bombay Natural History Society in India. It has the responsibility for National Network of Important Bird and Biodiversity. BNHS will keep track of important bird and biodiversity area in the country and would work towards its protection. Then national level pe BNHS karega, but at international level, if things have to be done, if countries have to be made to cooperate, come together, it will be the BirdLife Secretariat which will be looking after it. There are some other initiatives of BirdLife. One is IBAs in danger. Under this, the focus under this initiative, the focus is on making governments, NGOs, international organizations aware about the problems being faced by birds which are in danger and increasing focus on their protection. Okay, so I hope this idea, important bird and biodiversity area, या फिर BirdLife International, if questions related to these would be asked, you would be able to answer this. See, they may ask a question. BirdLife International is an international organization where countries come together to collaborate, or where states come together to collaborate for protection of bird species. By common sense, you will say, हाँ ऐसा होना चाहिए ना, नाम में BirdLife International लिखा हुआ है. But please note that BirdLife International is a collaboration of NGOs, not of member countries, not of countries. And therefore, like what I want is you people should be prepared a notch above most of the other students. कि अगर ऐसा क्वेश्चन भी आए, you should be able to answer it. I'm assuring you, after biodiversity is completed, we will, like in the whole environment, biodiversity and climate change, we will solve 500 questions. In this kind of live interaction only, we'll be solving 500 questions. At that time, you'll be forced to revise all the coverage, all the notes that we are doing. Okay, now let's go to migratory birds and flyways. So we have already spoken about a number of migratory birds. You would be surprised to know that roughly 20% of the bird species which are found in the world globally, they are migratory in nature, and they migrate long distances. There's this example of hummingbird, tiny rufous hummingbird. North America का पूरा continent, winters, summers, winters, summers, winters, it keeps on. Pura North American continent, it migrates. Or look at the example of Arctic tern. You should know about this species. Arctic tern is also the emblem of BirdLife International. This bird migrates from pole to pole. North Pole wala region, South Pole wala region. North Pole wala region, South Pole wala region. It would stay in summers. And by pole, I do not mean एकदम North Pole पे. Do not fight with me कि सर आपने तो pole to pole बोला है, ये North Pole पे रहता है क्या? North Pole पे या South Pole पे exactly life cannot survive. Life cannot be there. Okay, in and around those regions, from pole to pole, it migrates. So birds do migrate long distances. Almost 20% of the bird species in the world are migratory. We have studied about sociable lapwing. We have studied about geese-headed birds there. We just talk about Amur falcon, जिसका hunting होता था North East India में. Siberian crane, which has not come to India since 2002. There are lots of migratory birds which come to India also, either as their destination or in between their path of migration. जैसे एयरवेज वाटरवेज होता है ना, ऐसे फॉर बर्ड्स वी हैव डिक्लेयर्ड व्हाट इज नोन एज फ्लाईवेज. सॉरी, व्हाट आर फ्लाईवेज? Flyways are migratory path taken by birds every year between the two places of migration, like summer breeding ground and wintering grounds के बीच में जो path which it takes, is the flyway. You'll be surprised to know that every year birds choose the same route, same path, even if they are traveling tens of thousands of kilometers, they'll be choosing roughly the same route. And thus we are calling it flyway. So what are flyways? Flyways are migratory paths taken by flyways are migratory paths taken by birds every year for their migration. They don't change their path at random, and in this path they do have habitats where they can rest and refuel themselves. Now these paths, these flyways can be categorized into 9 different flyways. There must be an image here. Look at this. These are the 9 different flyways. In fact, जो बर्ड लाइफ इंटरनेशनल है ना, उसकी वेबसाइट पे ही एक जगह 9 different flyways दे रखा था, एक जगह 8 different flyways दे रखा था. So that's why I have in bracket I have mentioned, some sources also mention 8 different flyways. So migratory paths can be divided into these flyways, and there are 9 such flyways. For example, look at India. There is this West Asian, there is this blue one, West Asian East African flyway. When the bird is traveling from this region to this region, you'll see it passes through India. I'm sorry, it passes through India. Then there is the Central Asian flyway. This Central Asian flyway. Even this Central Asian flyway, India falls within this Central Asian flyway. Then you come to this one. Let me clean this up. You look at East Asian Austrasian flyway, this flyway, this route. It may be Northeast India and Andaman's fall. So there are 9 flyways, 9 different routes, major routes which bird takes for migration, and on 3 of them, India also falls. East Asian Austrasian flyway, West Asian East African flyway, and Central Asian flyway. Most of the birds which come to India, which are migratory in India, come through Central Asian flyway. Takes the Central Asian flyway. Okay, so there are 9 such flyways. If you'll come to US, you would see here that this Mississippi America flyway, this one, is covering whole of the 2 continent. Birds idhar se idhar fly ho rahe hain. So we have 9 such flyways using which birds migrate. Through India, we have Central Asian flyway, East Asian Austrasian flyway, and Asian East African flyway. 370 species of birds visit India through these flyways. Roughly, we have 1400 bird species. Of them, 370 are migratory. They visit us here. 80% of the migratory birds that come to India come through Central Asian flyway only. Okay, now BirdLife International that we just studied, the international organization that we studied, has an international flyway program whose focus is protect birds across all the major flyways. Because again, अगर आपको migratory birds को protect करना है, as we discussed it in CMS, you have to protect not only the places which they are living, but the whole route, all the path. So flyway program of BirdLife International is focused on protection of birds by protecting all these 9 flyways. Okay, so what are the aims here? Save the threatened migratory species from extinction. Common sense bolega. Address landscape barriers which prevent migration, which hinder migration, like illegal and unsustainable killing of birds is one thing that we have to focus upon. proliferation of poorly planned energy and power transmission infrastructure. Energy transmission infrastructure sometimes hinder birds in their pathways. They have to be taken care of effectively. Conserve network of critical stopover sites with the help of BirdLife International's local conservation group. Strengthen local and national capacity in the stopover sites by strengthening collaboration between BirdLife partners. So these are various aims of फ्लाईवे प्रोग्राम. जनरली क्वेश्चन इस तरह से आएगा, फ्लाईवे प्रोग्राम किस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का है एंड वो क्या कर रहा है. So these things by common sense you would be able to answer if there is an option, but factually you should know that BirdLife International का फ्लाईवे प्रोग्राम है. Okay, now let's go to the next topic, Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Before we go to Ramsar Convention, we'll first understand what wetlands are. And even before that, let's see, like throughout the year, Ramsar Convention was in use. In January 2020, 10 wetlands were added in the 10 of India's wetlands were added in the Ramsar Convention. Then in October 2020, another 2 were added. In November 2020, another 2 were added. Then in December, another 1 was added. So in 2020, a number of wetlands, 15 wetlands of India were added in the list of Ramsar sites. So in 2019, we had 27 wetlands, which were declared wetlands of international importance and were included in the Ramsar list. Today, we have 42 wetlands, which are in the list of Ramsar sites. Then every 2nd February is celebrated as World Wetland Day. So for all these reasons, wetlands were in news. We will study it in details. We'll look at many of these wetlands also. We will look at what is the significance of Kabartal, what is the significance of Asan Conservation Reserve, what is the significance of Lonar Lake, Sursalover Lake, Sokar Wetland Complex. Geography में these kind of questions may be asked. We'll look at individual wetlands also which were in news. We'll look at the list of 42 wetlands that are there in India. इनको जो specific recently news में थे, that we will study in greater details. But first of all, what is wetland? What do you understand by wetland? कोई आप में से कोई आंसर करिए. Like I do not want this to be a one-way class. I'm sitting. आप में से कोई बताइए. Use the raise hand feature and then try to answer. Sanjeev has raised hand. Sanjeev जी बताइए.
Hello?
Sanjeev, what is wetland?
सर वेटलैंड मुझे जहाँ तक पता है कि सर वो ट्रांजिशनल जोन होता है, ना ही मतलब पूरा लैंड होता है, ना ही वाटर एक्वाटिक जोन,
ना ही बहुत एक्वाटिक है. तो बेसिकली यू आर सेइंग कि इट्स अ ट्रांजिशन जोन बिटवीन लैंड इकोसिस्टम एंड एक्वाटिक इकोसिस्टम
एंड यस.
ओके ओके. हाँ, इनफैक्ट एक टेक्निकल डेफिनेशन ये भी होता है कि जहां पे वाटर डेप्थ 6 मीटर तक नहीं है, if water depth is more than 6 meter, it becomes aquatic ecosystem.
सर उसमें
if water depth is less than 6
सर
meter,
वेटलैंड वो रामसर.
हाँ हाँ संजीव बताइए क्या बोल रहे हैं. संजीव शांत हो गया. कोई और बताना चाहेगा वेटलैंड? What do you understand by wetland? Do not look at the definition. When you hear the term wetland, दिमाग में क्या आता है? भवानी has raised hand. भवानी जी बताइए.
सर वेटलैंड का मतलब जैसे जहाँ पे पानी तो इकट्ठा है ही, लेकिन सिर्फ पानी इकट्ठा होना नहीं है. जैसे स्विमिंग पूल के अंदर भी पानी हो सकता है, उसको वेटलैंड नहीं बोला जाएगा. मतलब वो कुछ नेचुरल वहाँ पे कुछ मतलब डिपेंडेंस है वहाँ पे, मतलब कुछ स्पीसीज आ रहे हैं या फिर वो मतलब नेचर को किसी न किसी तरीके से सपोर्ट कर रहा है कंजर्वेशन के अंदर, तब उसको वेटलैंड कहा जाना चाहिए.
ओके ठीक है. देखो हम घर में स्विमिंग पूल बना दें उसे वेटलैंड डेफिनेटली नहीं बोलेंगे, बट एक बाहर मतलब आप अपने गार्डन में जाके, आपका बहुत बड़ा गार्डन है, मान लो 10 हेक्टेयर का गार्डन है, उसमें 1 हेक्टेयर का आपने बड़ा सा पूल बना दिया, without cemented and all those things, just the natural एक pond बना दिया, even that is wetland. उस pond में दूसरे living organisms अभी नहीं भी आना शुरू हुए, it is a wetland. I'm not saying it's wetland of international importance. I'm not saying it's wetland that is protected by laws in India. But wetland, आपका land wet है. Look at the name. है ना? So even that may be a wetland. Please understand, जैसे if you know about rice cultivation, during rice cultivation we have to flood our land with water. Even that is wetland. Even that is wetland. तो देखो wetland का ना बहुत कोई well defined definition नहीं है. In general, if you look at Ramsar's definition, here you would see a wetland is a transitional land between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem, जो सबसे पहले आपने बताया. पर अगर रामसार ये तो इन जनरल डेफिनेशन था, रामसार कन्वेंशन के डेफिनेशन में जाओगे, एरियाज ऑफ मार्श, फेन, पीटलैंड और वाटर, वेदर नेचुरल और आर्टिफिशियल, परमानेंट और टेम्पररी, विथ वाटर दैट मे बी स्टैटिक, दैट मे बी फ्लोइंग. मतलब एक रिवर का पार्ट भी वेटलैंड हो जाएगा, एक रिवर का रीजन भी वेटलैंड हो जाएगा. फ्रेश, ब्रैकिश और सॉल्ट, including areas of marine water, the depth of which at low tide doesn't exceed 6 meters. So even coastal area where the depth of water does not exceed 6 meters at the time of low tide can be considered wetland. So it has almost included everything. आपके अराउंड कहीं भी आपको नेचुरली पानी भरा हुआ दिखा, not in your swimming pool, but even in your artificial pond, if you have water filled there, that can be considered wetland. Here it's not saying it's important for biodiversity. No, here not saying इसका size कितना होना चाहिए. Even your agricultural land which temporarily you fill with water at the time of sowing of rice, even that can be considered wetland. They're not Ramsar sites. They are not wetlands of international importance which are included in the Ramsar list. But wetland का मतलब समझो. So when you look at lakes which are found around you in Delhi, they are also wetlands. They may be important for biodiversity, they may not be important for biodiversity, but are wetlands. Now wetlands are very important. Wetlands are very significant for a number of reasons. Basic thing, हमारी food security के लिए wetlands are important. In fact, Bhavani, you would be surprised to know that जब हम वो करते हैं ना, sometimes even those places where we are dumping our municipal wastewater, even those could be considered wetlands. Wastewater वहां जमा है ना. हम अभी देखेंगे ईस्ट कोलकाता वेटलैंड के बारे में. We'll study in details about it. It does not have a riverine source of water. Municipal water is dumped there. Even that is wetland. Okay, so wetland has very broad definition. जैसे नाम है ना, wet land, land wet. Suppose consider an area where every year during floods it gets filled with water for let's say 5 days only. बारिश होती है, वो पानी जम जाता है 5 दिनों के लिए. अगर वो कंक्रीट नहीं है, ऐसे तो रोड पे भी पानी जम जाता है, तो क्या उसे वेटलैंड बोलेंगे? नहीं, we won't do that. So that can be considered wetland. Even for 5-10 days or a month or 2 months, that area gets filled with water, it may be considered wetland. It may be important for us, it may not be important for us, but it is wetland. Okay, now significance. See, wetland is important for our food. Rice cultivation तो wetland में ही हो रहा है इंडिया में, right? Fishery. Most of these wetlands, lakes and all are also the ponds that people are creating for aquaculture in their fields. Those are also wetlands, and thus they are providing us a lot of food. They also act as storage of water. जब बहुत सारी बारिश होगी, lakes, ponds, and all those would get full. They help us in recharging the groundwater. They also help us in cleaning the water, purifying the water. They reduce flood. When they store a lot of water, they reduce flood, and they also control erosional activities. You would also see that they play a role in climate regulation. Without wetlands around us, the temperature would be slightly higher. Without wetland around us, the biodiversity would be slightly less, the greenery would be slightly less. A number of wetlands are important from tourism perspective. Chilika Lake, it's a wetland. People go there for tourism. We'll look at the list of 42 important wetlands in India. People do visit those places for tourism. Wetlands are transitional zones. Now, transitional zones are also very rich in biodiversity because they have features of both the ecosystem between which they are transitioning, and thus from biodiversity perspective they're important. For coastal protection also they're important. They act as a buffer zone. If wetlands have a lot of greenery, if we have a lot of mangrove, let's say in coastal area, so it protects us from tsunami and all those things. So wetlands are very important, and to protect, to increase focus upon some of the wetlands which are important even internationally, we have Convention on Wetland of International Importance. This convention is also called Ramsar Convention. Convention on Wetlands of International Importance. So here all the wetlands would not come. Any lake, any pond that you create in your field, agricultural field, would not be included. Here, what would be included? Here we would include only those wetlands which are of international importance. Okay, so what is this convention? This convention is nothing but an intergovernmental treaty where member countries have agreed to follow certain norms to protect those wetlands and to promote the wise use of the wetlands. So here we are not saying that those wetlands would not be used at all. कि हम छिलका लेक में फिशिंग करेंगे ही नहीं. No, we are not saying that. Or this convention does not want you to do that. This convention what this convention wants is you should wise use that. Use it wisely. Use it in a manner which is sustainable. In fact, Ramsar Convention is the only convention in the world which focuses on a single ecosystem, which is focusing only on wetlands. Other conventions आप देखेंगे, they cover a number of ecosystems together. This is one international convention which is focused only on wetlands. Now it's called Ramsar Convention, Convention on Wetland of International Importance. It's called Ramsar Convention because this convention was signed, was adopted in the Iranian city of Ramsar in 1971. Today, almost 90% of UN members are its members, are part of this convention, and presently it's headquartered in Geneva. Note that it is not headquartered in Ramsar. It was signed in Ramsar, and that's why this convention is also called Ramsar Convention. Now, what is the aim of this convention? Develop and maintain an international network of wetlands. They say in tomorrow's class we will study about man and biosphere. Acha, by the way, this week we will not take history class. पिछले वीक 3 हो गए थे, उसकी वजह से हमारा थोड़ा पॉलिटी भी कम हुआ है. So we will focus more on polity. I'll try to take 2 classes on polity, and either tomorrow or day after tomorrow I'll also take an extra class on environment, biodiversity and climate change. I'll do that. Okay, एक और क्लास लेंगे अभी जहां पे हम मैन एंड बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व्स पढ़ेंगे और मैन एंड बायोस्फीयर प्रोग्राम पढ़ेंगे. अंडर मैन एंड बायोस्फीयर प्रोग्राम the UNESCO has identified list of biosphere, network of biospheres. In the same way, here Ramsar list is a network of international network of wetlands, which is important for global biodiversity. The aim of this convention is identify those and help work towards its protection. Then there's a concept of vice use. As we said, the protection under Ramsar convention does not mean that you leave it completely, you do not touch it. जैसे नेशनल पार्क के कोर एरियाज में होता है, we end all kind of human interference there. No, this is not the case with Ramsar convention. Ramsar convention promotes the concept of wise use, that is human use which is on sustainable basis. Wise, समझदारी से use करना. So here they say that application of wise use concept is crucial to ensure that wetlands continue to support biological diversity as well as human beings. Both are supported. Diversity is also protected, human beings are also benefited. तो wise use में आप किन किन चीजों पे फोकस करोगे? The wise use guidelines of Ramsar Convention says that every country should adopt a national wetland policy. Member countries, the countries which are part of this convention, they should adopt a national wetland policy. They should develop programs of wetland inventory, wetland monitoring, wetland research, and so on. They should also take action at wetland sites involving development of integrated management plans and so on. And here, the wise use concept does not only apply to wetlands of international importance. It applies to all wetlands and water resources located in the contracting party's territory. So the concept of wise use does not only apply to the wetlands of international importance or wetlands listed under the Ramsar site, it applies to all the wetlands in the country. So it may apply to even lakes and ponds which are not included in the Ramsar list. Okay, now India mein Ramsar list mein there are 42 wetlands. The latest one is Sokar wetland complex. We will study about the Sokar wetland complex, which was added in the list in December 2020 in greater details. But here I have arranged them in a map wise manner. मतलब हम top to bottom जा रहे हैं, at the same time west to east जा रहे हैं. तो सबसे पहले on the top we have Ladakh, the Sokar wetland complex and Somoriri lake. These are two lakes of Ladakh which are included in the Ramsar list. Then in J&K we have Surinsar Mansar Lake, Hokera wetland. These two are located in Jammu and Kashmir. Then in Punjab we have 6 wetlands: Harike Lake, Kanjli Lake, Roper Lake, फिर Keshopur Miani Beas Conservation Reserve and Nangal. These 3 were added in January 2020. January 2020 में 10 wetlands were added in the list. No, these 3 were added in January 2020. Then we have in Himachal Pradesh 3 wetlands: Chandratal wetland, Pong Dam Lake, and Renuka wetland. Renuka, please note that Renuka wetland is the smallest of all Ramsar sites in India. Only 0.2 hectares. Sorry, 0.2 kilometers square. 0.2 kilometers square. So 0.2 kilometers square would roughly be 200 meters square. Let's अभी CSAT में नहीं जाने का मन है मैं. 0.2 kilometer square, like 1 kilometer into 0.2 kilometer का 1 kilometer into 0.2 kilometer, 1 kilometer into 200 meter, ऐसे समझ सकते हो साइज इसका. इतना small, Renuka wetland is the smallest of all Ramsar sites in India. Then we have in Uttarakhand we have Asan Conservation Reserve. This is the only Ramsar site in Uttarakhand which was added recently in 2020. ये देहरादून डिस्ट्रिक्ट में रिसेंटली ऐड किया गया है. दिस असम कंजर्वेशन रिजर्व एक आसान बैराज बनाया गया था ऑन आसान रिवर वेयर इट मीट्स यमुना रिवर. उस बैराज बनाने की वजह से वाटर का फ्लो रुका एंड बर्ड्स वहां पे आने लग गए, बायोडाइवर्सिटी बढ़ गई. तो इन 2020 इट वाज डिक्लेयर्ड अ रामसर साइट. देन केवलादेव घाना नेशनल पार्क इन राजस्थान, Sambhar Lake in Rajasthan, Upper Ganga River in Uttar Pradesh. It was already there. But in 2020, another big list was added in उत्तर प्रदेश. Nawabganj, Parvati Agra, Saman, Samaspur, Sandhi, Sarsai, and then Sur Sarovar Lake again. These are the wetlands of Uttar Pradesh. Then Kebar Tal wetland in Bihar. It has become Bihar's first Ramsar site. It is also known as Kanwar Jheel. Kebar Tal is also known as Kanwar Jheel. Kanwar, Kanwar, Raja Kanwar Singh wala Kanwar Jheel. It has become Bihar's first Ramsar site. Then Assam में दीपोर बिल, गुजरात में नाल सरोवर बर्ड सेंचुरी, मध्य प्रदेश में भोज वेटलैंड, वेस्ट बंगाल में सुंदरबन वेटलैंड. सुंदरबन was added in 2019 only. The Sundarbans of Bangladesh were already part of Ramsar list. Sundarban of India was not part of it. So it was added in 2019. It became the largest Ramsar site in India. Then we also have East Calcutta wetland. हम इन दोनों को डिटेल में पढ़ते हैं. East Calcutta wetland, as I was already telling you, the East Calcutta wetland was basically lowland area where the Kolkata Municipal Corporation started dumping wastewater, municipal water. Even that became a wetland. Bhitarkanika, Chilika in Odisha, you already know about these two important lakes there. Loktak Lake was Sangai deer wala, dancing deer wala Loktak Lake. Fundis wala Loktak Lake, where floating islands are there. Rudrasagar Lake in Tripura. Then Nandur Madmaheshwar, ये महाराष्ट्र का पहला साइट बना था, रामसर साइट बना था in January 2020. Then in October we also got Lonar Lake added in the list in 2020. Koleru Lake in Andhra Pradesh, Point Calumet in Tamil Nadu, Ashtamudi Lake in Kerala, Sashtamkotta Lake in Kerala, Vembanad Coal Wetland in Kerala. These are the 42 Ramsar sites in India. These are generally arranged from north to south and from east to west. So that आपके लिए याद करना आसान होगा, rather than अगर मैंने डेट वाइज ऐड कर देता तो वो कंफ्यूजिंग होता. ऊपर भी उत्तर प्रदेश में एक ऐड हुआ था, बाद में भी. तो आई हैव लिस्टेड ऑल उत्तर प्रदेश वन टुगेदर, ऑल बिहार वन टुगेदर, ऑल मध्य प्रदेश वन टुगेदर. अच्छा, यहाँ पे आप देखेंगे देयर आर सम स्टेट्स जहां पे वेटलैंड्स नहीं है. जैसे जाओगे तो छत्तीसगढ़ में आई थिंक वी हैवंट सीन एनी वेटलैंड्स येट. अब वेटलैंड्स हैं, रामसार वेटलैंड्स, रामसार साइट्स हैं. ओके, ऐसे ही आई थिंक तेलंगाना में भी मैंने कोई नहीं देखा. राजस्थान, उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार, तेलंगाना में भी also we do not have any. So there are some places where we do not have any wetlands. उसको भी मेघालय में we haven't seen any, Nagaland में we haven't seen any, Arunachal Pradesh में we haven't seen any. So there are wetlands there also which are very important, but they are still to be added in the Ramsar list. So how do wetlands get added in Ramsar list? Arunachal Pradesh में important lakes हैं. They are not in the list of wetlands, but some of them are. So what is the process and why all of a sudden last year 15 wetlands add हो गए list? I'm sorry. Why a place like Sundarban till 2019 was not in the list, which has now become the largest wetland of India, largest wetland which is Ramsar site in India. So how do wetlands get added? What is the process and what is the criteria? So a wetland can be designated Ramsar site. उसके लिए there are some criteria. There are some criteria and there's a mechanism. First, the member party, the contracting party, it will designate suitable wetland. It will nominate कि ये सारे wetlands India से should be included in the Ramsar list. They may give reasons of ecology, botany. We'll look at the 9 criteria on which it can say that it is wetland. So after that, the Ramsar Secretariat will ensure that the data and the map which have been provided by the parties are fulfilling the criteria. And अगर वो होता है तो that place can be declared a Ramsar site. So the criteria can be divided into broad categories. There are 9 criteria, but we have divided these 9 criteria also in broader category. There is group A criteria first. Group A criteria includes sites which are representative, rare, or unique wetland type. Here we are not saying that that wetland is having this much biodiversity or this wetland is having this much bird. That wetland itself is very rare, is unique. Even then, that wetland may be declared as a wetland of international importance. So wetland type itself, if it's unique, it can be declared a wetland of international importance. This can be one of the criteria. Then there is a group B criteria which deals with biological diversity. Agar for biodiversity that wetland is important, then that wetland can be declared as wetland of international importance. What are the criteria under this group B criteria? One is it supports vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered species. That is threatened species ko if it is supporting, or if it is supporting threatened ecological communities, then this area can be declared a Ramsar site. So if there's a lake in India which has any of the critically endangered species or endangered species or vulnerable species, these are the threatened criteria that we have, it can be declared a Ramsar site. Or that is one criteria. It supports population of plants or animal species important for maintaining biological diversity of a particular biogeographical region. A very general criteria, if that place, that wetland has population of plants or animal species which are important for maintaining biological diversity, then it supports plants and or animal species at a critical stage in their life cycle. कोई वेटलैंड है जो कि टर्टल के नेस्टिंग में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर रहा है. नाउ नेस्टिंग इज अ क्रिटिकल स्टेज फॉर दैट turtle's life cycle. So that turtle may be least concerned, but this wetland plays a important role at a critical stage. It can be so biodiversity wale arguments, biodiversity wale criteria. One, if you have vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered species, you are wetland. You are critically endangered. Oh, sorry, you are wetland of international importance or Ramsar site. Criteria 2, if you have population of plants and animals which are significant, important for ensuring biodiversity in that biogeographical region, you can be declared a wetland of international importance. Criteria 4, if you support plant or animal species at a critical stage of their life cycle, then also it can be declared a wetland of international importance. Then there's a criteria based specifically on water birds. देखो, एक तो है if you have birds which are critically endangered, vulnerable, तब तो you can be a wetland by default. But otherwise also, if there is a wetland, I'm sorry, yeah. So here, here we were talking about the criteria on the basis of birds, water birds. So if there's a wetland which has 20,000 or more water birds, whether they are critically endangered or not, whether they are endangered or not, whether they are least concerned or not, does not matter. If you have more than 20,000 birds, you can be declared a Ramsar site, a wetland of international importance. Similarly, if you regularly support, if that wetland regularly supports 1% of the individual in a population of one species, let's say a particular bird is there whose total population is 10 million. 10 million's 1% is 100,000 or 1 lakh. If one wetland itself supports 1% of that bird's population, then that place can be declared wetland of international importance. Let's say Jedon's courser की बात करते हैं. Let's say its population is only 100. So if a wetland is there which is supporting even one bird, 1% हो जाएगा, it can be declared this. But generally ये criteria यहाँ fit नहीं होता क्योंकि Jedon courser, because it's critically endangered, by default that wetland can be declared wetland of international importance, because अगर critically endangered species को आप support कर रहे हो, उसके अलावा ये criteria भी fit हो गया. Then there are criteria based on fish. if this wetland has significant proportion of indigenous fish, subspecies, species, or families, life history stages, and so on, it can be declared wetland of international importance. And then there is criteria 8, which says that it's an important source of food for fishes, spawning ground, nursery, or migration path. Even in that case, that wetland is wetland of international importance. And finally, if the wetland regularly supports 1% of individuals in a population of one species or subspecies of wetland dependent non-avian animals. Non-avian मतलब यहाँ bird की बात नहीं कर रहे, ऊपर bird का था, if you are regularly supporting 1% of the bird species, any of the bird species का 1% population if you are supporting. Here, if you are supporting 1% individuals of any of the non-avian, ave are the birds, yesterday we had seen, so any of the non-avian animals, even then you can be declared a Ramsar site of international importance. Now comes the question, why something like Sundarban, which supports various crocodilian species, which supports various turtles, which supports tiger, which are endangered and all. It supports some reptiles which are critically endangered also, was not in the list. Because list में जाने के लिए पहले आपको nominate करना पड़ेगा and then list में जाएगा. तो lack of political will from government side was one of the factors for a lot of our sites not being in the list. But पिछले एक साल में हमारा focus has increased, and in last 1 year only we have 15 more sites, more syllabus for UPSC aspirants. Now, under this, let's go to Montreux's record. What is Montreux's record? Montreux's record is, lists those Ramsar sites which are where adverse change in ecological character has already occurred, or it may be occurring right now, or it is highly likely that it may occur in future. Adverse change in ecological character has already occurred, it may be occurring, or is likely to occur as a result of technological development in future, as a result of pollution in future, or as a result of other factors in future. So sites where adverse changes are there, were there in the past, or can occur in future, those are included in Montreux's record. What is the idea? Why are we doing something like this? We're doing this because we want to highlight. Let's see, these are the places these are the wetlands which are of international importance, but they are facing a lot of threat. The main purpose is drawing attention to these sites. Once this is done, once a wetland is included in the Montreux record, countries would take more steps to bring it out of the record. For example, you would see that from India, we have two sites, Keladeh National Park and Loktak Lake, which are included in this list. Earlier, Chilka was also there, but after a lot of effort, conservation measures, this Chilka has been brought out of this particular list. Okay, so in general, what are the threats faced by wetlands in India? Water pollution. We can understand that. Noise pollution is another challenge, especially the wetlands which are located in urban areas. Dumping of waste. Very less focus on non-notified wetlands. We would see that there are wetlands which are of international importance, which are there in the Ramsar sites. Then there are other wetlands also, which are notified by government. But then there are various ponds, lakes, which are not notified by government. उन पे focus बहुत कम है. Then lack of resources with local bodies. Most of the time it is local bodies, be it Panchayati Raj institutions or urban local bodies which are responsible for taking care of these wetlands. उनके पास इतने resources नहीं है कि वो इनका अच्छे से ध्यान रख पाए. Those are some major concerns, major issues which our wetlands are facing. Okay, now World Wetland Day. It is celebrated on 2nd February because it was on 2nd February the Ramsar Convention was adopted. That is the reason 2nd February is World Wetland Day. Theme for this year was wetland and water. Then we go to वेटलैंड कंजर्वेशन एंड मैनेजमेंट। एक सेकेंड मुझे और दे दीजिए, ये राइटिंग वाला थिंग हैज बीन रिमूव्ड। हाँ, तो वेटलैंड कंजर्वेशन एंड मैनेजमेंट रूल्स 2017। What has India done for protection of wetlands? Other than wetlands being in Ramsar sites, we also have wetlands which are notified by state governments. And जो notified wetlands हैं, उनके लिए कुछ conservation and management rules हैं, which were released under the Environment Protection Act. So these conservation and management rules, which came into force in 2017, have replaced earlier 2010 rules. How these rules are different from 2010 rules? First key change that has happened is who can identify and manage wetland. Earlier, all the powers were with central government. The central government will identify wetlands. But now, states and UTs have also been empowered to identify and manage wetlands. Therefore, you would see that state governments have now coming up and saying that we have declared this particular pond as wetland or this lake as wetland, and unpe sare rules valid honge. So now, not only have they more responsibility, they also have not only do they have more power, they also have certain responsibilities. They'll have to create a state wetland authority, which will be headed by state environment minister. In the same way, at national level, Central Wetland Regulatory Authority would be replaced by National Wetland Committee, which will be headed by Secretary of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Some activities like dumping of solid waste, electronics, etc., have been banned. This particular rules, wetland conservation and management rules, on which wetlands would it be applicable? It would be applicable on all Ramsar sites plus sites which are notified by central, state or UTs. Now central, states and UTs have also been given powers to notify certain wetlands. So those wetlands which have been notified by them are on these rules would also be applicable on them. Okay, so these were various basic things about wetlands that we wanted to cover. Now there were some wetlands which were in news, जो मतलब पिछले एक साल में ही रामसार लिस्ट में गए हैं. Then there were some other wetlands which are older but were still there in news. We have to talk about those. So first is Ramsar wetlands which were in news में Sokar wetland complex. Sokar wetland complex. So if we'll go to Ladakh, here we have the Sokar complex at this location. And if you'll zoom on it, you'll see that there are two lakes. One is the Sokar Lake and other is Start Sapuk Lake. Start Sapuk So or Start Sapuk Lake. This lake is freshwater. This lake is hypersaline. Sokar is hypersaline. Its salinity level is very high. Now, Sokar का मतलब होता है white lake because white salt found on the margins due to the evaporation of highly saline water. These have been declared a Ramsar site. This complex has been declared a Ramsar site in December 2021. Sokar Wetland Complex. Now, why were they declared Ramsar site? Because you would see that Sokar Basin is also an A1 category important bird area. You understand what important bird area is? So biodiversity perspective, it's very important. It's also a key staging site for Central Asian flyway. Now you also understand what Central Asian flyway is, migratory route mein, it fits into there. The site is amongst the most important breeding areas for black-necked crane. This is also major breeding area for great crested grebe, bar-headed geese, Rudy shelduck, brown-headed gull, lesser sand plover, and many other species. So यहाँ पे clearly दिख रहा है कि threatened vulnerable species are also in the found here, and this should have been declared Ramsar site way back, but this has happened now. तो ये इसे हम Sokar Lake complex इसलिए बोल रहे हैं because there are two lakes, Sokar Lake which is salt water and Start Sapuk So which is fresh water. Fine. Now, Asan Conservation Reserve, Uttarakhand. It became a Ramsar site in October 2020. This is a 444 hectare stretch. This is a 444 hectare stretch of Asan River. तो असन रिवर जहां पे यमुना से मिल रहा होता है, वहां पे एक बराज बनाया गया था, एक असन बराज बनाया गया था 1967 में. And because of the formation of this barrage, a lot of siltation took place. Siltation led to increased biodiversity क्योंकि वहां पे बहुत सारा fertile soil जमा हो गया, improved biodiversity, and over the years this place became very important for bird species. It supports 330 species of birds, including various critically endangered birds like red-headed vulture, white-rumped vulture. We know that these are two critically endangered. We have 4 critically endangered species, vulture species in India. उनमें से 2 यहाँ मिलते हैं. Bear's Pockard is also found here. It's also an important, it also falls on migratory routes and thus is very significant for Central Asian flyway. So this Asan Conservation Reserve was declared a conservation reserve in 2005 under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and now this is also a Ramsar site. तो यहाँ पे ये vultures बहुत पहले से मिल रहे हैं. It should have been declared. It fulfills the criteria for being in the list of Ramsar site from way long. It should have been declared a Ramsar site way long, but has happened recently. Then we have Sur Sarovar Lake, also known as Keetham Lake, which is located in Agra. Now see, this is a human-made lake which was made to ensure that water supply is available for people of Agra. But over the years, it has become very important and rich ecosystem, and it supports various migratory birds as well as 60 species of fish. It's an important bird area. Here, India's largest bear rescue center is there. जो ट्रेडिशनल पीपल हु यूज्ड टू कैच बियर और भालू का खेल दिखाने के लिए जो बियर को डोमेस्टिकेट करने की कोशिश कर रहे होते थे, उनसे रेस्क्यू करके यहाँ पे बियर रेस्क्यू सेंटर में लाया जाता है. देन वी हैव काबर ताल और कांवर झील. It's located in Bihar. This is first Ramsar site of India. In October 2020, it became the first Ramsar site of India. This lake is basically a residual oxbow lake. Do we all understand what is oxbow lake? In geography, you must have studied. जब river एक किस तरह का shape create करेगा, and then when the river would move away, that shape remains and the water there remains, it becomes a lake, oxbow lake. So this oxbow lake was created during the meandering of Gandak river, which is a tributary of Ganga. This lake supports 58 bird species. Actually it supports more bird species, but 58 of them in the Central Asian flyway stop here for rest and refueling. Various critically endangered birds such as red-headed vulture, white-rumped vulture, bear's pockard, sociable lapwing, they are also found here. And thus it's an important wetland and should have been declared a Ramsar site earlier. In fact, it is also Asia's largest freshwater oxbow lake. तो ये एक unique type of wetland भी है. Thus should have been declared a Ramsar site way earlier. Happened now. Then Lonar Lake, Maharashtra. Lonar Lake is also very unique. This lake was created by a meteorite hitting this place. आज से 50,000 साल पहले a meteorite hit this place and created this lake. This lake was given, Lonar Lake was given National Geoheritage Tag in 1979. It is estimated, it is an endorheic lake. What is meant by endorheic lake? There is no outflow here. No outflow का मतलब water once comes into it, it does not go out anywhere. It only evaporates. So water evaporates, but minerals, salts, all those things which are brought remains. And thus it is highly saline. Its salinity and its alkalinity are both very high. But right outside the lake, there is considerable diversity of plants and animal life, and thus this lake is also significant for biodiversity. Before it became a Ramsar site in November 2020, it was in news in July 2020 also, when the lake had started turning pink. So this lake turning pink had a lot of people were surprised. The locals there were surprised. Scientists were also surprised कि why is the lake turning pink. पहले उन्होंने सोचा कि कोई type of algae या phytoplankton होगा, but their study found that because of rich presence of Haloarchaea microbes. Yesterday we had covered Archaea family, Archaea kingdom. Remember? First जो bacteria वाला kingdom था, that was divided into bacteria and archaea. Monera kingdom was divided into bacteria and archaea. And while talking about archaea, we spoke about extremophiles also, who can survive in extreme circumstances. There we had said that a number of extremophiles were photophilic, कुछ सल्फर खा के डिपेंड रह सकते हैं. These archaeas are halophilic archaea, a bacteria culture which survives on salt. तो यहाँ पे आप देखेंगे, and it produces a pink pigment. It is because of this pink pigment the lake had turned pink. The top surface of the lake had turned pink. तो देखो कल की क्लास में हमने आर्किया समझा, आज ही यूज में आया. Yesterday's class may have been a bit technical, but study it once. It's because we did not study it during our class 9, class 10 wala stage. A lot of things, a lot of terms that we see today appears very technical to us. पर हमें पता होना चाहिए ना कि वर्ल्ड में पूरा लाइफ फॉर्म है, वो कैसे कैसे डिवाइडेड है, वो किस किस तरीके. नेक्स्ट टाइम व्हेन यू सी अ बटरफ्लाई, यू शुड बी एबल टू आंसर वो कौन सी किंगडम का है. एनिमल किंगडम का है, राइट? बटरफ्लाई एनिमल किंगडम का है, बट इट इज अ इनवर्टिब्रेट. इट्स नॉट अ वर्टिब्रेट. इट्स अ आर्थ्रोपॉड. इट्स अ इंसेक्ट. Should be able to answer these things. It's not a crustacean, it's an insect. तो वो कॉन्फिडेंस, मतलब this knowledge base will help you appreciate things around you in a more effective manner. Now when you will go to a zoo, different species of plants, animals, snakes, when you look at them, you'll, अच्छा ये critically endangered था क्या? Oh, this is Indian cobra, this is king cobra, this is a panther, this is a leopard, snow leopard. Your appreciation of biodiversity would improve a lot after all these, after you study these things properly. Okay, so Haloarchaea microbes की वजह से, Haloarchaea microbes which produce pink pigment, the salt, the lake had turned pink. Now this lake, Lonar Lake, which was created because of a meteorite hitting Earth, was also declared a Ramsar site. So this is the second Ramsar site of Maharashtra. The first one was Nandur Madmeshwar in Nasik, which was added only in January 2020. So by November 2020, Maharashtra has second Ramsar site. Okay, now we have the next Ramsar site, Sundarban Ramsar. So Sundarban was like in West Bengal, there was only one East Kolkata wetland before 2019. Sundarban became India's 27th Ramsar site in January 2019. In fact, before January 2019, the last Ramsar site that was added from India into the list was in 2012. Clearly showing कि 2012 से 2019 तक political will and जो भी आप बोलो was lacking, and thus a lot of our sites which are fulfilling the criteria of being a Ramsar site are not added into the list. Think of various temple ponds of Assam, which have protected, which have ensured that some extinct species of turtles, extinct and wild species of turtles, have been introduced into the forest. Are those ponds not satisfying the criteria for being wetland of international importance? They are satisfying the criteria. They are protecting a critically endangered species. Even that temple pond should be in the list of Ramsar site. We have so many of those things. So even Sundarban was not there. Sundarban became 27th Ramsar site in January 2019, then in January 2020 10 साइट ऐड हुए, फिर अक्टूबर नवंबर दिसंबर में 5 मोर साइट ऐड हुए. So total we have 42 Ramsar. Now let's understand certain things about Sundarbans. Let's know some things about Sundarban. Sundarban has hundreds of islands, a network of rivers, tributaries, and creeks in the delta of Ganga and Brahmaputra. तो इधर से हुगली जो फ्लो होता है, a part of Ganga river in the form of Hooghly flows through India. Ganga enters Bangladesh, उधर से Brahmaputra enters Bangladesh. It flows into the ocean, and in the process they deposit a lot of sediments, which has led to formation of this delta, Sundarban delta, जिसे हम यहाँ पे सुंदरबन वेटलैंड भी बोल रहे हैं. Indian Sundarban is roughly 60% of country's total mangrove forest area. Of all the forest area that we mangrove area that we have in the country, 60% is in here. Sundarban not only is the largest mangrove forest area, has now also become the largest protected wetland in the country. It is also the largest. Renuka is the smallest Ramsar site. Sundarban is the largest Ramsar site. Now Sundarban Reserve met 4 of the 9 criteria. 1, rare species and threatened ecological community. यहाँ पे बहुत सारे critically endangered species मिलते हैं. Tiger for example, turtles, crocodiles for example. Biological diversity के लिए Sundarban is important. Fish species, fish spawning grounds, nursery, and all those things are. So it is satisfying 4 of the criteria, and thus it is in the list. Once it is in the list, now there will be more visibility towards the protection of Sundarban. Plus, it will also increase international cooperation. How? Sundarbans of Bangladesh were already in the list. Now Sundarban of India is also in the Ramsar list. So both countries can work together towards protection of Sundarban. And commitment of both state government and central government would also improve now. Then we have East Kolkata wetland. East Kolkata wetland was in the list since 2005. East Kolkata is not newly added. But East Kolkata has been in news recently because National Green Tribunal has questioned the municipality of Kolkata, the East Kolkata, urban local bodies. It has questioned urban local bodies for violating waste dumping norms in East Kolkata wetland. They say NGT has said that urban local bodies have been dumping waste and contaminating water bodies in the area. They have been dumping waste and they have been contaminating water bodies in the area. So let us understand what is this East Kolkata wetland. थोड़ा सा समझते हैं कि what is this East Kolkata wetland. So if you go to city of Kolkata, on the east of it, a large number of water bodies are there in the districts of South and North 24 Pargana. These water bodies have been formed. So a few decades back, when from the city of Kolkata, wastewater had to be discharged. So they found a lowland and they discharged wastewater there. This wetland came into existence there. Now, at that time, initially one the fish farmer, he diverted some of the water, some of this wastewater into his pond and used that wastewater for cultivation of fish. So that wastewater is already rich in nutrients. जो हमारे घर से पानी निकलता है, म्युनिसिपैलिटी से पानी निकलता है, it is rich in nutrients. So only sunlight was enough to produce large amount of algae and phytoplanktons, which could act as food for fish. And thus, eventually more and more people started using it. And now we have 254 sewage fed fisheries also as part of this wetland. It was added in the Ramsar list in August 2002. Now, थोड़ा सा और समझ लेते हैं. The sewage is drawn into these wetlands. Then from these wetlands, from the water bodies around here, it is drawn by local fishery owners into the fish ponds called bheris. The sewage is drawn into fish ponds. from the tributary wastewater canals. After this sewage, just by getting sunlight, can produce a lot of algae, lot of phytoplanktons, जिसे fish खा सकते हैं, fish also multiply. But by this mechanism, one more thing happens. 80% of the organic pollution and 99.9% of the coliform bacteria is reduced in this water. जब fish इस water में grow करते हैं और वो consume करते हैं algae और phytoplanktons को जो इस water में develop हुआ है, in this process only 80% of the organic pollution and 99.9% of the coliform bacteria finishes. By this, experts estimate that Kolkata Municipal Corporation saves 5,000 to 7,000 crore rupees every year. If they wanted to clean so much of water at their own by putting in sewage treatment plant, they would have wasted 5,000 to 7,000 crore rupees every year. The fish are doing that for them. Then this wastewater from these ponds are diverted into fields of rice and wheat. और उसके बाद इस water से rice और wheat grow किया जाता है. So this whole area जहाँ pond है, rice wheat की cultivation हो रही है, is the East Kolkata wetland. So 25% of Kolkata's fish and vegetables are grown with the help of this water, and thus this supports livelihood of more than 1 lakh population. This wetland is also known as kidney of Kolkata. What does our kidney do? Our kidney remove the waste material from the blood and all, right? So this same thing is done here. But scientists have also started raising concerns. They're saying that the fish which are grown in this water, the vegetables which are grown in this water, may have heavy metal contamination and may not thus be good for our health. Detailed study and all those things are yet to come, but ये concern have started to be raised, and that's why आप देखेंगे NGT ने भी बोला है कि you are unnecessarily dumping a lot of waste there. A few decades back, the amount of waste that was going may not have been that dangerous. Today, the danger level is also going up. Okay, so these were some Ramsar sites which were in use. Now there are some non-Ramsar wetlands also which are in use. There is a Sukhna Lake. Sukhna Lake from Chandigarh, which was in news. So this lake was created in 1958. This is a man-made lake which was created in 1958 by Le Corbusier, the guy who has planned the Chandigarh city. This Sukhna Lake was created by damming of a seasonal stream which comes down from Shivalik hills, and because of this damming, a 3 square kilometer का lake बन गया है. Now, around the lake, eco-sensitive zone has also been declared. So this lake, in terms of biodiversity, you would see that UT of Chandigarh has in June 2020 has by notification declared it a wetland. Under the 2017 rules, the state government, the UTs and the center, they can declare these bodies as wetlands. So they have declared it as wetland. Now, once it is declared wetland, all these activities would not be allowed here. Commercial mining, setting up of industries, establishment of large-scale commercial livestock and poultry farms, permanent constructions, feeding of fish and migratory birds by public. Now, public cannot feed fish or migratory birds also here. Solid waste dumping, discharge of untreated waste and effluent from industries, cities, towns, villages, and other human settlements, poaching, except angling with permission from department, and use of plastic carry bags. All these things are banned here. इससे पहले भी ये मार्च में न्यूज में था when Sukhna Lake was declared a legal entity by the Punjab and Haryana High Court, and a big fine of 100 crore rupees each on Punjab and Haryana government was imposed for not taking care of this lake properly. So Sukhna Lake of Chandigarh was also in news. Okay, now let's go to Hyderpur wetland. Hyderpur wetland was in news because in November 2020. So first of all, Hyderpur wetland kahan pe hai? It is in Muzaffarnagar. Muzaffarnagar, northwest Uttar Pradesh located hai. Now, Forest Department of Uttar Pradesh is working along with conservation organization to get Hyderpur included in the list of Ramsar. Why? Because this Hyderpur wetland, it supports various birds like bar-headed goose, grey-lag goose. It also has turtles and river dolphins, and thus it is satisfying the criteria for included in the list of Ramsar site. So now they are taking efforts. So it's not yet in the list of the Ramsar list, but they are taking steps to get it included in the Ramsar list. Okay, so this was it for today. आज की क्लास यही रोकते हैं. कल most probably कल और या परसों. We are not doing history this week. We'll be taking an extra class on environment, and then we'll mostly be focusing on GS2 mains polity this week. History आपने last week 3 classes कर ली, बहुत है. Okay, now let me see some questions, some doubts if there are there. Sir, is CMS binding? बेटा देखो, जैसे when we sign some agreement, we say that we would implement it. That's why we sign it. Okay, but अगर वो हम implement नहीं कर रहे हैं, is there a punishment for that? No. In that sense, it's not binding. Sir, can wetlands be classified as ecotone? Beta, there is no such thing as ecotone classification. But yes, wetlands can be considered ecotones. What are ecotones? Ecotones are basically transition zones. Huh? So some wetlands which are acting as transition zone between aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem, they can be considered ecotones. I think these are the only doubts that we have here. Hello guys, I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll inform you by night today. कल क्लास होगी या फिर परसों क्लास होगी on environment biodiversity only. Okay, thank you very much.